one of the biggest influences in the world is media.
Yes.
How do we capture that and capture our stories in a way that you're the expert? So you're the one that's going to understand completely how to capture some of these ideas and advise us on how we put these in Impact Studios.
I cannot wait, because this is everyone's like, what's your side hustle? And just like, my side hustle is being a dance mom, a cheer mom, make an impact, and sitting in an advisory role to remind us that television media can also shape policy.
Yes.
Television media has already shaped policy.
Yes.
If you track Ellen announcing that I am a queer woman, if you track then Will and Grace, and then if you track what happened in our legislation, historians will tell you that is a through line and a connection. But we gave access to the people by showing them that, then they voted.
What you're saying that I find super important is informed people make better choices. Hi, welcome to Making Impact. I'm joined by my good friend, Brandy Curry, Chief of Staff at the TV Academy. Welcome. How are you? Great to see you.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
I know. I think the last time I saw you, you were getting ready for the Emmys.
Yes.
You were locked in, very energetic, excited, and happy, and it was a wonderful event.
We had 3 shows that were incredible, and I'm so happy to start thinking about the 78th Emmys.
And you start this soon, huh?
Oh, yeah. A week after we closed the show, we hop right back into pre-production for the following year.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It does, because I think everything's so fresh in your minds, right? What you liked, what you might not have, and what you might want to change.
Yeah.
Is that the reasoning behind it?
We have a different network partner also every time we do the show. And so they want to go, let's cut and paste that. Let's do this. Let's start looking at this. What are our host ideas? Who do we want to present? What hot shows are coming? What's the slate of it all? So that's why it gives them an opportunity to have a little bit more time instead of just doing like a 6-week pre-production. It's really a year.
Wow. Yeah, I know I didn't know that, and I don't think many people at home that have the pleasure of watching it and just get excited to sit down realize all the work that goes into it.
Right.
I remember it was back in May when we announced you're joining the advisory board.
Yes.
And I felt really blessed because of your passion for all the work that you do at the Academy, but also the influence that media overall. But how do you, right now in the current landscape, right? And we can talk about that. That could be its own podcast and itself, right? But in the current landscape, how do you see TV influencing or making an impact in the way that shows are sort of being scripted, what's happening in the world? How does what's happening in the national landscape shape what you all are thinking about at the Academy?
I believe it shapes what's happening in the industry. So I have a unique role of being a very public facing brand, but a lot of my everyday contacts and business are with the showrunners, writers, producers who are making content that
Okay.
you don't necessarily see.
Right.
Unless they happen to be a Kerry Washington, who is both a producer and someone who is also a writer, who is also the talent on screen. A Reese Witherspoon is a great example. Jennifer Aniston is a great example. You know them. I know them from the behind the scenes. They're working in production. And so what's so interesting right now in the national landscape, it is absolutely shaping what the content that we're seeing. It's not always happening as fast. So I feel like if you go back and look at what we were watching in 2022 and 2023, there was a little bit of a prelude to what the election season was going to be like. What was happening with reality programming was actually really cool because you were seeing multi-generational conversations. So I believe that television absolutely shapes, and it's like, is it the chicken or the egg?
That's what I was just going to say, is that do you believe that it's being shaped by what's happening in the world, or that people are reacting to what they're seeing and now somehow absorbing it and walking it forward.
Yeah, I think it's a yes and a yes. It's like, yes, someone had the idea to do Shogun 10 years ago. Shogun then was announced and greenlit and made and won 19 Emmys, by the way. And but that was a process. But the timing of when it hit was when we were hungry as a nation for authentic storytelling that was different than what we were seeing. It was different than the medical drama or the law drama or the police drama. It was like, where are we? There are subtitles. Great. I want to engage with this. I think it's going to continue to happen. And I think it might be, this is my optimist side. I think that what I'm hearing is that even though we're moving towards, there's a bit of contraction in the industry, everyone's saying there's less and less. I'm like, I feel like there's way more television. There are over 10,000 scripted shows. I don't know if I could name 100 right now.
Right.
I can name them based on like a franchise because I'll be like, oh, okay, well, what if there was like, oh, the Bridgerton, oh, they had Queen Charlotte, oh, okay, all of these spinoffs. That could get me to 100. So I think that we're going to see in 2026, the prediction is that we're going to see a little bit more reality programming, a little bit more Love is Blind, more like, hello, Love Island this year. So hot. We're going to see more of that because that's what's working. At the same time, yes, maybe the nation is moving away from our social impact work. But behind the scenes, Hollywood is not. Because Hollywood's like, who's turning on the television? What are they watching and what do they want? Are they only watching content on Paramount Plus? No. They're also watching content on Netflix. They're also watching that subtitled show on FX.
Well, doesn't that kind of explain why, when you just said something that really struck me, you said people are watching Love Island, Love is Blind, all of these shows. And to me, I think people maybe need that,
Absolutely.
the shift in focus on social impact in the world in general. And there's a hope there. There's like, look at people being
Beautiful.
happy, finding love,
Yes.
joy. Do you think that's what's driving people to that kind of programming?
Yeah. And they also want to watch the great, baking show. And they want to watch Master Chef because they want to, how do you make a souffle? What is a sous vide? There's a curious, I think the curiosity is still driving content. And I think that curiosity is still lending itself to people wanting to see something authentic. I want to go to, if we're going to see a show that is based in Japan or a show that's based in Africa, we are going to Africa. We are going to Japan. We are finding cinematographers and we are finding actors who live in that country and nation. And we are curious.
That's very important, though.
Right? It's exciting. It's exciting. I think someone said recently, I was watching a morning news content and I don't remember what someone was saying, oh, I think it's going to swing the other way and we're going to see a little bit more conservative programming. I was like, well, look at Hallmark. Hallmark has been a wonderful brand that has had a very beautiful, this is our formula and it works to the point where Netflix is buying Hallmark content and putting it on their channel.
Right.
Because people do want that wholesome Christmas and they start watching it in the summer.
Yes.
I
Yes.
love that. I love that. We need that because you know who was watching that? My dad, by the way. Yeah, I'm calling you out, Arlen. He is out. He's watching every Hallmark movie my dad has seen. When you look at my dad, he's a 6-foot Black Episcopal man from Florida. You're like, he's not watching the Hallmark Channel. Oh, he is.
Yeah.
That's a demographic. He loves those shows. I'm not watching that. I'm watching Love Island, but I watched that because I wanted to root for someone. And I loved that it was with a cast that was so unique to whatever they had cast in the previous season.
And what made them unique? What do you think made it
So
different?
there were men and women who were out with they have a huge social media following, and so while they're in the house they can't post on social. So influencers, they're big influencers, and so they're really really well known out doing wonderful things before they hit and we're locked in the house for
Right.
however many weeks they're in there. they're bisexual, they're older, they're younger, they are Black, they're Latin, it's a mix of a whole
So it's
bunch of
diversity.
different things. It's beautiful diversity in the sense of everything you could possibly want. I'm an influencer, let's say there was an influencer on there that is super into the healthcare scene and makeup, and there's another influencer who's just solely beauty and jewelry or fashion. That is incredible because you're like, oh, you do that for a living, that's your job. There's a nurse on there. There was a, it's two nurses on there, a couple of students. And I just think that having not seen previous seasons and walking into this last season, it was exciting because I was like, oh, I get why. Because there were more people watching it because someone at home was going, that's me.
Right. That's what I was going to say. So they want to connect because that's part of what we've been talking about a lot in Make an Impact is trying to find the things that make you connect to another person.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're talking about, purpose-driven organizations that really are providing some sort of social service, everything from education to healthcare to medical, mental health, well-being, all of that.
Right.
Within all of that are not-for-profits, but within those that we serve, they are reflections of all of us. They're reflections of the very people delivering those
Yes.
services, the families to which you have. Everybody
Yes.
knows or has somebody that might have struggled with a substance misuse or a mental health issue
Right.
and now are in a position to say, just like me. Most of these
Yes.
people are just like me. So finding that commonality and seeing something on television, is there a way you think something like a Make an Impact or us trying to keep those stories, right? Like we have people delivering services in the shadows and
Mm-hmm.
people that are highly successful in our communities. And I believe that most everything people think they know about poverty is completely wrong
Oh,
from my
absolutely.
experience in working in all of these communities and co-creating solutions with folks that are highly intelligent and highly capable.
Right.
Is there a way that the public at large, and not just by what channel they pick, but is there a way for us as general people in the world can influence the voices and the
Ooh,
unspoken stories that folks don't know about to bring that to light? Like we're trying to raise awareness of what we're doing as organizations, but also tell the stories that I think people would be astounded to know, someone given this much of an opportunity starts their own business.
yeah, there's a company called Pop Shift that does exactly that, where they're listening to stories. So they'd be a really good partner with, Make an Impact, because Make an Impact has the everyday, this is my story, this is my life. I'm a senior citizen. I live in this home. I've lived in this home for however long. There is as you said, someone who has been maybe they were in the foster care system.
Right.
Those are so you
Sure.
connect them to a writer or you connect them to a showrunner who's like, tell me your story.
Ah, okay.
That's a bridge. That's a beautiful bridge that I think that writers are so hungry for. They were like, I love working on the 20th season of said show. I dream about writing sci-fi drama about a Martian that is, comes to planet Earth and is adopted.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I need to know what the adoption process is in the United States. I need to know what the foster care. So they go and they do their research. But it's better to have. That's where the authenticity comes from. It's not someone just making it up. We can make it up. We all have fantastic imaginations that we foster in our kindergarten. Like you're a teacher, so you know.
Yes. Yeah.
So was I, and so it's easy to foster imagination, but the writers want to connect with with real people.
Right. So what they're getting is the real stories, the authenticity, and the experience of those closest to the proximity of the issue,
Yeah,
right? Or the successes, people that are telling their own stories. And that's, I think, giving voice to people, not speaking for them is a big,
that's everything.
yeah, it's a big deal. Have folks that feel unseen be seen, right? All of
Right.
that matters. And
I'm waiting for Homeboy Industries. So they have a huge group of men and women who were incarcerated, who are now doing wonderful wonderful work, and they are of service to people who have been, who have been recently released. And that prison care system in, the United States is rough.
It's very bad. Yeah.
I'm waiting for that story. I want that story. The documentary, great, great, great. I want to know, I want to hear a story, and I want to see that story. I want to know how did you get here? What happened? Tell me, what's your background? So Homeboy Industries is starting a entertainment program. And so that's what it is. It's the nonprofit organizations or the service organizations that are under Make an Impact who have a story to tell, connecting with writers and showrunners. The Television Academy does a summit every year where we bring folks together in a
Oh,
room
wow. That's fantastic.
and we say, hey, showrunner, hey, writer, come and listen to this story. Come or connect with the Homeboy Industries or connect with NAACP Hollywood office and or connect with CAPE and let's listen to stories and hear from real people. Sometimes these folks are writers themselves and they have a great story, but you know what they don't have is the leg in the door. They don't have the access.
Yeah, but access is the key to everything, right?
That's
We just
yes.
talked about it. I've done several podcasts today, but one of the things we did talk about was even access to services. Like,
Yes.
it's a big discussion. I said, the days of people coming to a fixed site on some sort of big campus has gone. Nobody's doing that anymore. We need to go to where people are comfortable within the communities they live in to make sure that their continued participation in whatever kind of service they're getting gives us the best outcome by
Exactly.
we need to remove barriers and make it easier.
Oh, yep.
What made, and now look, we're talking about everything about TV, the academy, the entertainment industry. And how was I lucky enough to ask you to be an advisor
My
on Make an
goodness.
Impact? And how come you said yes?
Oh my goodness. I mean, it's a wonderful opportunity and I always try like my core values. I grew up in an interfaith household. I'm Jewish, Buddhist, and Episcopalian. So all three of those religions really believe in being of service. So I think I naturally gravitated towards our good buddy, Michael Tesler, because he's always of service. And I was sitting on a panel and we connected. And that's because I was in the role of being of service. And I really, when I think of my journey towards this work and social impact, I think it's just started with selling Girl Scout cookies and then going, is this it? Is there more? And then having a hunger and the passion to do actual community service. And then turning 13 and in the Jewish faith, you do a mitzvah and so that's my background. We connected, yes, by way of Michael, but when I heard what you were doing, what you wanted to do, we were having a conversation about what was going on in the industry. And there was so much social impact content. I mean, if you look at 2022, 2023, there isn't a television show that didn't really hit a wonderful, it didn't hit the message of this is authentic.
Right.
And so we wanted to do more. And Participant Media had just announced that they were closing. And I said, where are they going? Where's their funding? What's happening? They're doing the work. We should be doing the work. Let's
Right.
do the work. And then you asked me and I was like, yes, let's do the work.
It sounds like I got you at exactly the right time.
You caught me in a moment where it was like the Monday or the Sunday the article hit. I saw you that Monday, Tuesday, and I was just like, where are they going? What are we doing? How can I help? Because it's the word back to access. If we're going to use a buzzword in 2026, that is, for me, is no longer using the acronym that we have now put to bed. DEIA for those of you listening. And it's access.
It is. And you know what? We hit it. Like, this is really what's an interesting part of it. DEIA is happening by nature, right? In what we're doing, and there's an intention. There has to be an intention to anything you want to happen, or else
Right.
it goes away. Whatever you focus on changes. And we always talk about this, whether it's data, anything it is. You put attention on something because things do not magically change, right? But what's happening in the TV industry, which I find fascinating, is you're driven by people watching.
Yes.
And by watching, you need to be representing the differences across people that are watching, right? So the nurse needs to see a nurse.
Right.
The bisexual wants to see a bisexual.
Yes. Yes.
And
And
so
not the same trope of the
that's right.
nurse or the
That's right.
bisexual. I want to see that's where the
The average
layers.
everyday.
Yeah, give, the complexity of this character. It can't always be the same character. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a push that happens
Mhm.
almost from the public in general to push that to happening. So how is that now changing in
This current climate?
yeah.
Oh, I don't think it's changing. I think we're gonna double down. I think we're gonna triple down. It's just not, we're not gonna use the buzzwords.
Right.
We're gonna continue to make the content. We're gonna continue to make sure that Arlen Smith has his Hallmark movies and has access to them on multiple networks. We're going to make sure that I get an opportunity to watch Love Island and
Right.
Love is Blind, and that we do more shows with subtitles. Like Lupin went up. I just read this article.
love
This was
Lupin.
so fantastic. So the Louvre incident happened. I did a deep dive. I don't know if anybody else did, of like, well, when did the jewels get into the Louvre? Has anyone ever attempted? And then, it was a wonderful journey on the internet. And Lupin went up, and all of the French subtitle, programming on Netflix went up, and it was
Yeah.
like number 1 and number 2. And I thought, yeah, because everyone's like, I think it's curiosity driven, and I think it will never not be
Well, you know why
curiosity
too?
driven.
That content was a hook,
Right?
right? So if you're a
Good.
person,
Yeah.
you know how many times I've suggested a movie to people, like and I love movies or
Yeah.
going to things because I think it also it's the spark to true conversation, right? It takes away the discomfort of talking about hard topics. You watch a
Right.
show, you see a movie, you're walking out, you start talking about it, and you're talking about these big events around relationships. What was the issue that happened that was the protagonist, and where have you had that feeling in your life? Like it starts so many conversations that are
Right.
fascinating.
Yes.
And what I think what happens with Lupin is I suggest, like, let's go see this. And everyone's like, all right. I'm like, it has subtitles. And it's like, no, boo. Nobody wants to see something with subtitles. What is it, school? And I'm like, whatever. So now Lupin, go see Lupin. And people are fascinated and they're reading it. That in it of itself is like the introduction to it's okay to watch a movie with subtitles. You can do
Right.
it. You did it. You
Right.
actually enjoyed it. And that's the exposure to things I think we're not comfortable with, right? How do we
Yes.
step outside our comfort
I
zone,
love that.
try something new,
Yep.
and then get engaged with it? How do we
Are we
how do we
taking a
see
risk?
yes,
Right.
right. Take a little risk, look at the differences that make people unique,
Mm-hmm.
but not to separate us. I remember us actually connecting over talking about getting divorced,
Oh,
right?
yes. It
And
is
we
so,
we
yes.
actually laughed because when you go through it and you have a conversation, everybody was talking about something else. And I was like, oh, yeah, it was really hard because you have a kid.
Yeah.
Yes, me too.
Yeah.
And we have this connection. We live on opposite sides of the country in completely different industries.
Yes.
And here's
Having the
this
same
one thing
experience.
around
Yes.
wanting to protect your children the best you can, wanting to
Right.
have the best adults and people in their lives, and whether or not that person can sit beside you and have that or not. How are you going to have
Right.
that journey and put your child first when you have your own feelings you're dealing with? And so we almost had like a little therapy session of like
It was
validation.
fantastic.
Made me feel like, oh my God, she totally gets it. Now,
Yeah.
no other checked box would have made us think we had anything in common.
Sure. Absolutely.
And we found that commonality that got us to many conversations to say we have a lot of the same points of view.
Right.
And now here we are having an opportunity to work on a project with over 700 not-for-profits. And how do we change an ecosystem? And how do we continue to use the influence of one of the biggest influences in the world is media.
Yes.
And how do we capture that and capture our stories in a way that you're the expert? So you're the one that's going to understand completely how to capture some of these ideas and advise us on how we put these in Impact
I
Studios.
cannot wait, because this is a, like, everyone's like, what's your side hustle? And just like, my side hustle is being a cheer mom. We talk about that, I've being a dance mom and a cheer mom, um, make an impact and sitting in an advisory role to remind us that television media can also shape policy.
Yes. Thank you. Yes. Thank
Television
you.
media has already shaped policy.
Yes.
If you track Ellen announcing that I am a queer woman, if you track then Will and Grace, and then if you track what happened in our legislation, historians will tell you that is a through line and a connection. But we gave access to the people by showing them that, then they voted.
What you're saying that I find super important is informed people make better choices.
Oh, yes.
And taking content that's meaningful and stories that are often unheard and making them accessible, familiarizing them in your home where you feel safe to actually tackle some of those problems. I'm sure those situations gave people an opportunity to have conversations within their own households.
Right.
So that's why I'm so excited
Me
about
too.
this relationship, about making a new friend,
Right. Oh,
which I'm always excited when I see you because of your joy
thank
and your
you.
energy. And it's really, it's infectious, right? In the best way, but also saying, I don't know what you know. And I want to take the stories we have and have you help us and advise us on how we lift those. So thank you
Yes.
for joining us
Thank
today.
you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Brandy, for joining us. I promise she'll be back. If you like what you heard today, please like, subscribe, and hit notifications so you know what we're doing. And most important, comment. We talked about a lot of things today. It's not just about doing a podcast. It's actually about talking about things we think are important to everybody. Access, being informed, being able to make decisions, and making sure your voice is heard. So thank you, and see you next time.